Kia ora everyone and welcome to another episode of Shift Happens. Today I've got my good friend Rachel Klaver from Identify and Marketing on the line. Kia ora, Rachel.
Hello, it's lovely to be here with you, Johny. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. So Rachel and I have known each other for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now?
I think it must be 6, 7.
6, 7.
And we met at a conference where we had a bit of a set to, because I was talking about how annoying Gen Y were and you were talking about how awesome they were.
I remember it well.
You are an awesome Gen Y, so you know.
There you go. Hey, Gen Ys are doing a lot for the world at the moment.
They are doing a lot.
They're
for
making
it.
some
I know,
big sacrifices.
I feel bad. And also we need the Gen Ys to come back to save the cafes. So, you know,
We do need to get that Evo Smash going again. Also, just get them back to work to pay back some debt, right? Like,
well, yeah, exactly. Oh, so they're going to pay for their car on lease if they're not coming back to work.
No, I remember the conference well, and I can actually remember laughing at you at that conference. I should apologise. I laughed at you because you carried a clicker with you, which I thought was hilarious. And within like 6 months, it's become an essential item. It had become an essential item for me, and I was carrying it.
Here we go. I used to always carry a clicker and whiteboard markers.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah, you don't want to shit
stick with
whiteboard
everything
marker.
on it. Yeah.
You can't be pulling up and having shit whiteboard markers. That's the worst.
No, it's the worst.
Trying to make a good point.
Yeah.
So how's your home, obviously, and like a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of your businesses and your clients right now won't all be operational. So how's it been for you so far in the lockdown?
So we've been, it's interesting, I run a little coffee meeting, which I've started since lockdown, like a Zoom one once a week, just inviting like clients and people connections if they want to come. And one of the things we talked in there, it was about success guilt in terms of like busyness. And we've actually been really busy since the lockdown ended. We were before, and it really hasn't changed. Really the biggest change has been that I guess the support we're doing is different, and some of the bigger projects we were doing has moved, and we've kind of been working more one-on-one with people instead. And I guess the other thing is that we're all at home, so the Wi-Fi is sometimes a bit sporadic. If we all jump on at once, sometimes one of us disappears. That's been one of the biggest things. Yeah.
And so are you having the same experience as me, which is, understanding, for me, I've understood more about my business, and you and I have talked at length about this, right? Like we get together often and chat about our businesses and kind of identity in this space and everything. And for me, it's been a really interesting unraveling, because it's became sort of clear as why our clients are with us, like really quickly. And so all of the things that all the practical stuff, a lot of it we had to stop because it just wasn't, there was no room for it anymore. Some of it we obviously continue, and a lot of it we'll pick up shortly. You've got the P Waka Waka joining me in the background here. My daily P Waka Waka visit. Still hasn't worked out the mirror yet. Anyway, and then realizing that kind of sounding board and strategic advice, and actually someone said it to me years ago, actually, that you're like a business partner in proxy, and it's really lonely in business, and that's really come to this it's in first place all of a sudden. It's become much clearer over the last month for me.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky in that we were talking before about Dale Beaumont, and I'd gone to a course with him about 3 weeks before lockdown, and I came out of them when I need to shift how we're doing things. And so we'd actually shifted into the model that we're using now 3 weeks before lockdown happened, which was really perfect. And that was me realizing that we didn't want to be a doing for you agency at all anymore. And we really wanted to be a working with you agency, or working with you consultants. And I do see that is where we all need to go. Like for agencies and people that have been in the past being doers, there is a need for lots of doers, like website designers and developers are really busy, and content writers and things like that. But as the flurry happens after that, and I've gone through the global financial crisis and those things before, so I've seen it, there's a shift for doing and all that creative stuff, and then there'll be a slump. And you'll need someone to work alongside you, because you don't want to be paying outsourced help. And so there'll be a slump. And then as the economy recovers, they'll go back to outsource, and then they'll bring it in-house. It's a flow. But the doing with you for me is the thing that I find the most empowering and the thing I love most, because I'm like you, I love being able to partner with a business and see that work and see those things change and evolve over time. And it's a serious job because, you know, if you give the wrong advice, you know, you could be impacting not just them, but families, many families.
Yeah, that's right.
And I have found it hard to carry that weight, to be honest. And have had to really make sure I get breaks because I take it on.
Same.
But it is a privilege. It's an intense privilege.
It really is. It's an amazing privilege, and that's why it needs to be treated so carefully. I think when you're put in that position of being that sounding board for people who are in situations where they are struggling to see the wood from the trees at the moment, and they really do need that external input. It's incredibly useful to be one step removed, but one step removed is not totally out, right? It's not like you're not affected by it. And I think what you're saying about the flow is really interesting because I've been exploring it prior to COVID-19 already. And again, you and I have bounced a lot over business models. And I just have this like thinking about the outsource side of things. I just have found it like this inescapable truth that you just can't outsource most of what needs to be done now anyway. And it just is so awkward and time consuming and expensive and never comes off quite right when it's totally detached. When that marketing department is actually outsourced and someone's providing it for you and they try and avoid having to do it in-house, it's very hard to get that level of authenticity and the speed required and that direct connection to the customers unless their capabilities are developed in-house. Is that kind of like...
Part of my thing was like we used to have quite a big team and I used to get my team to do our social media and they're all like people would pay for, and they're good people. They were good people at doing it. And it was me actually shifting and realizing that every time I did a post, the engagement would go up. And so I started trying it with my clients and saying, okay, I need you to start doing your own social media. And they'd go, I'm not good at it and I can't do this. And, you know, I want someone else who's 20 to do it because they can make the colors look better. But when the business owner talked directly to people, the tone changed and people could tell that it was them and it wasn't someone that was removed from their business. And so one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping, and I know you are too, helping people who are actually really invested in the business, like either the owner or just deeply invested, to be the people who are in charge of their marketing. Because when they do that, so marketing today has to be from the heart. Like you can actually have spelling mistakes in there. You know, you can have a dodgy picture of yourself, not too dodgy, not inappropriate dodgy, but like dodgy as in like poor lighting, dodgy, just to clarify. But you can have like, just making sure I'm not getting myself into trouble here, but you can have things that aren't perfect, but if it's from the heart, people respond to it. And I really do think there's a move away from that saccharine perfection of marketing, and COVID-19 has just sped that process up.
Oh, I totally agree. I'm so glad you've said that. I really like, for me, this whole, everything that you and I jammed on prior in terms of what the trajectory we saw for marketing, which I found like overwhelmingly positive, like small business having access to the same tools as big business, having like such direct contact with your customers, consumers being really empowered to make better choices, which I think is fantastic, and having better information, authenticity being the most powerful attribute, you know, that hard sell kind of mentality disappearing and the heart kind of coming through more strongly than ever before. I feel like we've just taken this huge leap all of a sudden through this process.
Incredibly. And it was interesting because we had like a brief chat around this, because I was telling everyone, by the way, that I've been bugging Johny to do video for ages. And so I was saying how proud I was of him, that he's been doing video and how he's doing these. I love watching them. He's awesome. I'm a big Johny fan. I think he's amazing. But one of the things we talked about was about that kind of line of where your authenticity is, and that actually it doesn't mean that you're bearing everything. Like you can't be online and just feeling like, you know, all your ups and downs. Like I moaned on Saturday in my group, and then I regretted it because I was having a weak moment and I didn't need to do it. Like actually it is still having boundaries. There is a persona involved in this. Like you still have to have some boundaries around, you know, whether you're going to swear or not, sharing your political ideas. how groomed you're going to be, you know. I go for the non-groomed, like that's my preference, but you know, how
Yeah,
groomed you're going to be.
I'm not happy with the three things you've just raised. I swear way too much. I share my political views, and I haven't had a shave for quite a long time.
I did actually notice it. I was thinking, I feel like Johnny's beard's growing quite a bit in the last few weeks. It's good.
Three bad pillars to bring in, eh?
But even just like things like, you know, like being cheerful, and we were talking about someone else that we both deeply admired before, and how he's been blindly positive, and how that's kind of jarring. Like getting that level of, it can be quite tricky, but it's about trying to work out what your tone is, but keeping that tone lovely and consistent, so people start to attach that tone to your business and trust that that's the voice of the business.
I completely agree, and it's been so interesting to explore that recently more, and come through with it, because I think I said to you, like, we were talking before, it's possible in our world to be chameleons, right? Like you end up in different environments. I end up in the variety in my day is so extreme that I can change gears up and down all day, which is a great skill. It's a great attribute in many respects, but it does mean that when you kind of boil it all down, you've got to. It's hard to be clear sometimes on where you stand, and you know where you are on the loose spectrum and where you are on political spectrum and all those kind of things, where it matters, where it's kind of unhinged and is just out for the public to consume. And I think what you're saying around, you know, not everything needs to be beard is really true, because I think people confuse authenticity for that, because right now, if you're a business owner, like it's great to be transparent and authentic with your team about where you're at, but if you're just kind of weak at the knees through this time and not and you're sharing that or offloading it onto your team, like I watched a workshop really early on in this process. I watched a webinar that was all about it, and it was saying that what you need to do, it was an accountant saying what you need to do now is make your whole team responsible for the fact that your business gets paid. Like that's everyone's problem. So if we don't get paid by the 20th, you don't get paid. I was like, oh, I would not be having that conversation with your team right now. Like, and it's just really showing. I think it is an interesting sifting process of seeing those things that you just intuitively know aren't right. And I think that's why the focus has to be on your own kind of foundation. Like actually getting yourself in a position has to be the first priority at the moment, where you are able to be that for other people. That's really important, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I'm seeing, so we had a big team and then we went to a small team, and I know you know, Johny, we actually just established a couple of roles in our business a couple of years ago when we realised that the business wasn't where we needed it to be. And so we changed direction, which meant that we didn't need as many people. And actually, we had 2 full-time staff, and they both opted to leave instead of just one through that process, which gave us an opportunity to really make something. But actually, one of the reasons that we started that process was I had realised that while I felt our team was a family, and that meant that everyone was as fully invested, that's not actually how a business works. Even when people say our business is a family, it's not a family. It's not. It's a group of people invested and interested. And you can have employees who are really invested and absolutely sold out for what you do. But what I have found from business owners I'm talking to at the moment, they're going through that same realization at the moment, because they've sent their people off to work at home, and they're saying to me, look, I'm paying them, but they won't change their work. They won't do other stuff, or they won't do things. And they're angry with their staff. And I'm saying to them, hey, look, actually, this is actually about your heart, because you've been in your head going, this is a family, and you need to listen that if you are a family, you need to understand they've got other family stuff going on in their own nuclear family, which is impacting this, and your job is to lead through them. And that was one of the things. But the other thing I was doing was, and I hadn't realized it, was when we were going through difficulties, I thought leading authentically was sharing all those problems with my team. But it's not. Because a leader needs to lead confidently across. And every time I did that, I was actually mistakenly unstabilizing the team, because I was creating all this anxiety around where we were heading, what we were doing, when actually I just needed to do a confident leadership or captaincy, really, of the business, pushing it through the waters. And so I'm seeing those 2 struggles with business owners now, where they're going either, hey, my team isn't on my side, and why aren't they? And getting angry with their team instead of seeing that they're putting too much pressure on them in lots of ways, or they're using their team as their emotional emotional checkerboard to kind of like shoot all the arrows out of their emotional state and hoping their team will absorb it to make them feel better, which is where we come in, because that's actually our job, is we're the ones that they should be sharing that stuff with to help them get through this, so they can go to their team and go, okay, calmly and collectively, this is where we're going.
Exactly. It's such a strong point. It's like at the moment you're saying there's concepts that are more important than ever before, like authenticity, but then you've got,
Yes.
it's authenticity versus being a completely unregulated, not having the ability to
Yeah, I would
actually.
say authenticity or honesty. Like
Yeah.
being authentic is
Yeah.
not being honest, which
No.
seems weird.
Yeah, it does seem weird, but that's the same thing as what we were discussing before, which is
Mm.
relentless positivity versus optimism, and like
Yeah,
there's a big gap there,
yeah,
but it's delicate. It is liquid for some people. It is
yeah.
confusing, right?
And I've found it really hard because I'm trying to navigate that and be optimistic for the people that will get through, but also being optimistic for people who won't. Like, I've had failed businesses. I've been a single mum trying to feed a family and not have any money and having power cut off and all that sort of stuff going on. And when you're in that space, to have someone say here, oh, it's going to be great and everything's going to be fine and we're going to get through, you're actually going to feel like you want to throat punch them
Yeah.
as a non-violent person, and you're like, stop it. Actually, what you need to know is it's actually really shit right now, but it can get better. And I think it's that can get better, and here's how you can try and help it make better, is a much better thing to say than it's going to be amazing and it's going to be incredible, because that's not real.
And it's not real, exactly. And I think people see through that at the moment. And that's, again, one of those trajectories that I feel like marketing and communications was already on, which
Yeah.
is that business to consumer, business to customer versus business to business was just felt irrelevant now. And that human to human connection is there. And I'm finding that with businesses at the moment. It's like, if we strip it all back and I'm happy to walk through the process, but if we strip it all back and decide that the best thing to do is to close your business, which it definitely is for some people at the moment, without a doubt, then we are suddenly straight back down to them. And I have so much, that is not a good situation to be in, to have a business that you've built up, to lose it
It's a
overnight
baby, right?
to lose it overnight through no fault of your own, and when you're carrying other people's livelihoods as part of it, is really fucking stressful. That's
It
intense.
really is.
But
It really is.
behind that with people as well, my
Yes.
optimism is often for them, and that's where the human to human thing comes in. I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
but you look at you, like you are a strong leader, and you are a talented creative person, and you have profile and reputation as a chef or as an operator or whatever, as a consultant. And I'm like, there's that doesn't change. And so suddenly people's personal brands are like, whoa, the elevation of personal brands at the moment in terms of who's attracted to who and who's listening to who at the moment is going through a really interesting filtering process. And I think everyone's starting to recognize something that probably wasn't on their radar so much, which is that regardless of your business, even if it's brick and mortar, traditional, large or small, your personal brand is so tied up in it. And that's a big identity thing for people.
It's huge. And I actually had this argument with a client earlier on this week, because they don't use their personal brand on their website, and yet they are leaders in what they do. And I'm like, you have to have photos of yourself on the website. I need them front page and need to have them. And they're like, oh, we don't want to do that because it's never been what we've been about. And I'm like, great, but you have to. Like, I was not about that. And yet if someone goes to my website, my face is everywhere. And I use my face in all our marketing messages. I've got photos of me for Africa, not always looking great. Like I've got weird photos of me and stuff like that. But it's because it builds a brand, right?
Yeah.
And people trust it. And it's even things like, I was doing a webinar. So I have like photos of me on magazines and stuff. And I normally I was going to be wearing this dress this morning when I was doing it, but I spilled Marmite all over it, real life. So I had to put on this one. This is also one of the dresses. So I purposely will wear the dresses that, because, this is the hard thing about being female versus male here, Johny. But, like, I make sure the clothes that I'm wearing when I'm doing Zoom calls or things where it's significant are similar to the ones in my publicity material, so people feel like they trust me. Like there's all these little things that just build that trust and help people know that you're the person that they can trust you to guide you through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In every industry, not just our industry.
No, totally. I totally agree. And so if you're thinking about that, because we're on the same page there, and surprisingly, and but thinking about that whole bringing the people to the front of the brand, because I think anyone can start a business right now, and anyone can set up a website and that. And so if people are not in front and center, then it's very hard, much harder to build trust. And I think people are worried about that through scarcity, which may get worse over time as the economy kind of tanks and people feel like things are more scarce. But I think the opposite is probably true. For the business owner, you've found over time, you've worked in lots of different businesses. You've had a really high profile through media and on social media over the years for many different aspects of your work.
Chameleon.
Yeah. I know. What you've in the last year or a bit longer really come into your stride in terms of authenticity. Like if I'm observing right, your humor, your personality has come through really strongly. I guess if I want to go here for the business that is really struggling with this right now, where their operations have stopped and they've realized that their brand didn't matter and no one really cared. Where do you start with that?
So I was definitely there. Like that's definitely where I was. Like I had very much allowed other people in my business to have I was hiding behind the name of our business. And I literally just started showing up. And what I mean by that is I just started putting my face on stuff. And look, I'm almost in my late 40s. I was going to say almost 50. I can't bring myself to say that. I'm in my late 40s. I'm round. I don't wear makeup. This is the tidiest my hair's ever going to get. I'm not a well-groomed woman who likes wearing heels. I'm just not there. And I struggled for a long time. And I hear a lot of my clients say things like, I'm too old to be on the front cover of my website, or I'm not pretty enough to be on there, or I'm not handsome enough, or whatever. The thing is that they're going to see you at some point anyway. Like they're going to come into the shop, or they're going to take the tour, or they're going to come and experience the restaurant, or they're going to meet you in person or on a Zoom call. Just get it over and done with. That's how I kind of went through it and went, actually, you know what? At some point they're going to meet you, and if they're going to make a judgment call on the way you look or the way you talk, because people don't like hearing themselves on video, let them do this early on so that by the time they come and talk to you, it's over.
So true.
And that's been the most liberating thing for me. And so that happened. And also the way I started doing it and people liked it. And it's a really interesting thing. Like if you put your face on, so if you've got an Instagram page or a Facebook page and you put a picture of your face on it, I will guarantee you'll generally get 50% more, at least, often 100% more engagement on it than if you do a picture of anything else you could possibly do a photo of. Because people want faces.
Yeah.
So just start with that. And start talking about yourself. I talk about having dogs. I talk about having kids. I talk about my husband, because he works with me in the business. So I talk about that. I talk about loving fishing. I talk about elements of my life, and it means people have got lots of different points to connect with me and start a relationship with me, really, which is what this is all about.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think, I'm really noticing as well, just in terms of like people, it can go one of two ways at the moment. I think when a business's operations stop, they've either woken up and gone, well, we didn't really matter. Like there was nothing kind of vested there, or businesses who were just doing it and unconsciously just totally unaware of the fact that they were doing it have received this like outpouring of love. Like I know some of our local cafes just didn't realize how important they were. They just didn't know.
And people tell you, like if you've been making an impact, this is when people have come and told you. So if you're watching this and going, I don't feel that love, look, it's not that you consciously did anything wrong. It's just that you haven't been consciously or unconsciously doing the right things to connect. And this is the opportunity to do it. And it might not save your business now, but as someone whose business was really broken 2 years ago, you can save your business in 2 years' time, for 2 years' time. And we are busy like you are. And I said to you beforehand, there are people in our industry who are really looking for clients right now. And we would have been there 2 years ago. Like, I'm not trying to say we are better than any other agency. Those people do good work, but what they haven't done is built a group of people where they're touching base and building those long-term relationships. And it might be because they're new in business, or it's just because that model hasn't allowed for it yet. But any industry right now, the ones that will survive and thrive and grow, and I hate to use that word thrive because I'm over it, it's like pivot, but those people there that kind of will either just get through or change and modify and get through or grow are the ones who learn right now that the relationships they have with existing customers are actually your most important relationships, and invest in those, invest in your current contacts, invest in anyone that you've kind of touched in a non-inappropriate way in the last couple of years. And make sure you look after those people, and then if you do that, it will build a really strong foundation.
Yeah, so well said, and I'm experiencing that as you're talking, because I'm thinking about two businesses that I know well, and one of them yesterday I was on the phone and we were talking about a total pivot, like miles away from the business he's in right now, and I was so like I was just giving him advice, but I was also so like I'm coming with you, like I'm gonna move with you there because I want to support that and I'm into that, and it's a total pivot, and so it was like, was it ever about that business? It really raised the question for me. I was like, oh, really? What I thought I was into is not really what I was into,
And this was the light that went on for me about 18 months ago, because I saw this woman and she had like 10,000 subscribers, and she'd led this a group of women, a community of women, through selling this thing, which I thought was actually a pile of crap, but I loved her. Like, I didn't like the thing she was selling. I ordered it and was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we paid for this. Wait, I paid for this as well. Like, it was crap, but she was so nice, and she completely dropped it and did something else, and everyone just followed her, because it's not the business. Like, we think we're building businesses, we're building communities. And I think that is the thing I learned. So what we did is I started actively going, I'm going to build a community of people who get me and like me, because it means no matter where we go, whether we change direction or what, we will have a group of people who will follow with us. And some of them won't because it doesn't serve their needs, but they will love it enough to tell other people who it serves. And that's what we're trying to really do here. And I will say, there has to be a lot said for every single business owner who's been on a learning curve in the last month. I worked with someone just up the road. She's not even a client. She's got a deli, and she's been she had permission to keep on trading through this period. And I said to her, hey, look, you need to start an email list, because you're putting stuff on Facebook and half the time I don't see it. By the time you open, it's missed it. And she still hasn't worked out how to not do BCC, and she's sending out the CC thing through her Gmail, and it's so cute. And I keep on going, hey, remember that CC thing I told you, so you can't see everyone else's emails? Can we do that the next time? But she's giving it a bloody go. And I look at that, I look at every single person that's tried Zoom. Like, honestly, I cry if I'm going to start crying in a minute. I am so amazingly affected by how many businesses are really giving it a fighting chance and embracing new things and new ways of working that 6 months ago you said you didn't need to have, and now you're doing it. And man, that's a powerful thing, don't you think?
It really is. It so is, and I can see that right at the moment, and also that double, like, again, we've talked about this as well, but what are we going to learn from this time that we don't want to go back on?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things we're talking about around marketing communications here, in terms of that authenticity, I think in the human to human connection and bringing the heart through, I just think there's no going back on that. The only way is forward from here, because I think people see that honesty right now and that rawness, and they appreciate it. And it's the hardest time to do it for many businesses. Like, when I know businesses right now who are bending over backwards to give good customer service and rearranging trips or refunding trips and things in the travel industry, who are potentially going to have to close over this, who are working harder than ever before to serve their customers. And that's the thing you remember, right? And like, it's massive. They are actually working really hard under stressful circumstances, just and hard to get kind of energized at the moment, because the prospects of their business aren't there. And I think those types of people will see this through really strongly, and I think as well as those who embrace new things. So I know, for speaking practically, that the businesses, there was a marked difference with the businesses I dealt with from those who had an email list to who didn't, for example, because
Yes.
as you closed, you could reach out to your customers. And
Yes.
if you had a Facebook following, that was also really handy to be able to actually reach out and talk to them straight away, and be a presence for them in a time where you can't serve them really mattered all of a sudden. And a website where you could change things, and a booking system where you could update availability really quickly. And so those systems really mattered. What you invested in your brand really mattered. Your ability to communicate really mattered. Your personal brand, all of these things suddenly just went straight to the top. And now, as we start to wind down from where we are in terms of level 4, and as that kind of rolls out over the coming weeks and months, and some businesses get back to operations again, like, systems are going to matter. I really wanted to support our local veggie store, and it took me 3 days on Messenger to get a veggie box from them. And in the meantime, I went to the supermarket and did my veggie shop, and then came back from the supermarket and the box was here. And then it took me another 2 days to get their bank account to pay them. And I imagine, like, I'm moaning about the experience, but I imagine for them it's a total nightmare, right? Like, they've got their phones ringing, messengers going, they're trying to sort everything out. They don't actually know what inventory they've got. All of these things that were a problem before have just been exaggerated so significantly now. And I think business will change really dramatically as a result. We won't go back on that.
I'm really excited about it. I have been quite heartbroken because I work a lot with retailers. That's kind of one of my things. I've been quite heartbroken at some people who are just going, I'm not going to change because it's too hard. And I do worry about those businesses because things have shifted. And I think what people are underplaying, which is really important, is it's not just about COVID-19 and what's happened in 4 weeks, or even just level 3. Because what's happened is our brains, the way our brains are wired, have been changed. And like it or not, there is fear and tension around coming closer to people again and things like that. And that's a structural thing that's happened in our brain. That's a rewiring that will take a long time to uncover and unpick. So if you've got a retail shop that's small and closed and confined, even when it's safe, you might see that there's issues. And people have moved to more online because more people have discovered it. My parents had never bought shopping online ever. They haven't been to the supermarket in 6 weeks, but everything is online. But I haven't needed to. And I think that's the shift. You know, people who've never done it before are shifting and changing. And so I love, you're called Shift Happens is what it's called. And there has been a shift. And you can't fight against it and get angry that the shift is there. I think that's the key. Stop fighting the shift. Flow with the shift, because otherwise, and I said it today, I put a post on LinkedIn and I feel bad. I'm saying, I said, you can't use fear marketing. You can't say you'll be left behind. I don't want to say that. You can't, there will be always a place for the old outlier that does the random thing where they go, I'm never going to be on that line. Like, if you've got enough brand, you can do that. But I want you to be a leader. Like, I think that's the thing I'm saying is be a leader in your industry. Change the way that you do it. Stand out. Make it really easy for people to expend the least possible effort to do business with you, because we want it easy. We're a nation of people who want it easy, no matter what we say. So find ways in your business, to change so that it's the easiest way of doing business. And that's really, if you do that, that solves it.
Yeah, it's a really good point to finish on. I just you mentioned your LinkedIn post before, and I thought it was really, really strong. So do you just want to explain what you said this morning?
That because I got moaning. I tend to write posts after I'm a bit annoyed about something.
It works. It seems to work.
Yeah. But I said, don't let fear be your marketing message. Don't use the fear of anything like, you're going to miss out or you're going to be left behind or, any of that as your marketing message. Turn it around and pivot it to positive, because it tends to mean that you attract better people into working with you as well. So instead of, don't be left behind, be a leader, like those are the same message. It just one is a positive way. So really focus on using a positive message, because also it means that your values are around entrusting optimism and making people hope. And that's something we all need right now, is a bit of hope.
And I love that, because I had this conversation with a business that's looking to go operational again in level 3, and I said, prior to lockdown, your messaging was really firm and fast because people had days to do business with you, and I get that. I did get it, and it worked. And I said, when you come out the other side of this, if you bring that same tone, you're going to really screw it up. Like if you come in so hot, I said, but things have changed for people. It's been a really, really hard month. And whenever we go down to level 3, and this particular business can operate again, I said, you need to be a lot more gentle this time with your audience. Yeah.
Gentle is good. I think having a gentle heart, and so many business owners I know have gentle hearts. This is your time.
And it's the type of marketing and communications where your customers still love you at the end of it, as opposed to some things that work, which they do work, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and,
they do.
And leaves a sort of chemical residue in people's mouths at the end of it. Of like,
yeah, if people love you at the end of it, they refer you and they tell other people to work with you and they pass your message on. And I always say the biggest marketing message we have is trust. So if you've built a trust relationship with your current clients, your business will be fine.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so good to talk to you. I always love hearing your insights, and I could just talk to you for hours. It's so good.
We do. Let's be honest.
We do. Thanks so much, Rachel.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.